Hello, fellow pen lovers and stationery enthusiasts. It's Christy here, Snarky Wordsworth over on Instagram and Reddit, and today I have a currently inked for you. I really do absolutely adore inks, but I have some that I tend to use over and over again, and I want to kind of, I don't know, I guess break the habit. I thought maybe tracking them this year would really help me with that. There are 3 inks in particular that I use pretty much every day. I don't know that I will be switching out of those, but never say never. But everything else is kind of variable. So like I said, hopefully having like some kind of video record of it will just sort of remind me, hey, maybe use a different ink for spring or things like that. In any case, let's go ahead and get started. So as mentioned, I do have 3 inks that I tend to use all the time, and these are in my everyday carries and my work planner. The first of those is my everyday carry Kaweco Brass Sport, and I always have that upside down. This is a great kind of workhorse pen. It's like essentially indestructible. I love that about it. And I can just chuck my everyday carry in my bag and not really worry about it. Now, of the 3 inks that I use every single day, this might be the one that I switch out. I kind of want to try a slightly wetter ink. So this pen has an extra fine nib, which is great. I absolutely love that it's extra fine. It really gives me the sort of line that I need, and I don't really have to worry about dry time too much. The problem is the ink that I use, which is Diamine Silver Fox, while an absolutely gorgeous shade of gray, is a little bit dry. And I don't know, maybe it's just this particular Kaweco extra fine nib, but it can do a lot of hard starts, and I kind of hate that, especially since in my everyday carry I tend to be trying to be speedy with things. Anyway, might try a wetter ink in this. Okay. And since it is an extra fine nib, you don't get a ton of the shading that you can get from Silver Fox with a broader nib, but I just really like the base tone of this gray in particular, so I was like, I don't even care. If I switch it out, I might put in Iroshizuku Fuyusyogun. I do really love that shade. It's a little bit paler, but it is in my experience quite a wet ink, so we'll see. Okay, so let's switch into my daily planner. Just did a video on this pen. It's the Pilot Elite 95S. I love this pen. It's one of my absolute favorites. And this is also an extra fine nib, but the line it lays down is significantly wetter than a lot of other extra fine Pilot nibs. Anyway, this is Vinta's Armada, and this might be my favorite shade of gray maybe ever. When you first initially start writing, it puts down this beautiful, almost greenish shade, and then it dries down to a gray, and it's super shady. I love all the shading you get with this one. And even with this extra fine, it still does show all of those beautiful shading qualities. And I don't know, I just like a little bit of extra in my daily planner. So I do like that I have some really fancy characteristics in there to sort of keep my interest and just keep me excited about planning day to day. So there is the Vinta Armada. Again, the broader the nib, the more characteristics you see. It's got some absolutely beautiful shades of green in it, and there's blues when you have like the big puddles of ink. But even with just a very fine line, you get a lot of charm and appeal with it if you happen to like grays. If you don't like grays, well, it's a gray ink. What can I say? My third pen and ink that I use all the time. This is the Pilot Pro Color 500 in Stardust. I adore this pen. It's just a steel nib, but I just really love writing with this thing. It makes me happy because of all the sparkle. And this one is Iroshizuku Kiri-same, and I really just enjoy the way that this writes in this particular pen. And this is a fine nib, quite a wet ink. And in this particular nib, it doesn't do a ton of shading, but it is a really lovely gray, definitely darker than Armada, but this is kind of perfect for my work planner. It's super consistent, has a really good flow, and I just really enjoy it in this particular pen. Okay, since we are in February, I wanted to do at least one red ink. I'm not a big red ink person. My preference tends towards like more browns, so the reds I get are definitely really quite dark. But this one is absolutely lovely, and I'm a little bit obsessed with it. This is in my TWSBI Eco in the clear, and it has a 1.1 stub nib. I am trying very hard to get into the broader nibs, and I do really like TWSBI's stubs. I really, really do, and it lays down a great line of ink. But anyway, so this is Ferris Wheel Presses, the Velvet Ballet. And as I mentioned, it is in the 1.1 stub. And I really do love this color. It is a little bit darker than like a bright red or anything, but it's certainly less brown than most of the reds I prefer. And it, like many of my Ferris Wheel Press inks, has a good amount of shimmer in it. This kind of got like a silvery bluish shimmer to it. And it's just really beautiful. And I've had so much fun writing Valentine's notes with this year. It just feels really perfectly seasonal for me without being like that really primary red, which is just not my jam. If it's your jam, totally cool. It just, I don't know, it just doesn't work in my planners and stuff. And I'm getting much more used to writing with the stub. So I think having the capability of showing off so much of the shimmer and the different characteristics with this ink has definitely helped me to love it more. Okay, next one. So this is my Pilot Decimo in the champagne, and it has an extra fine nib, which I think you can tell I really do like fine nibs. And this one is hard starting for me. That never happens. There we go. No, we don't. There we go. Okay, this is Robert Oster's Barossa Grape. I'm not sure how I feel about this ink. I really love the particular shade of deep, deep dark purple. It almost scans for black. I use this at work a lot of times when I'm jotting notes, but I have never had this problem, but I seem to have a ton of hard starts in this when I'm using the Robert Oster Barossa Grape. Do other people who use this particular ink have that same experience? I looked up reviews and no one was saying this is an incredibly dry ink or anything. And while this is an extra fine and a very extra fine nib, it seems to me, I have never had trouble with hard starts with this. It's one of my favorite pens when I'm doing notes because it doesn't hard start. So it's, I don't know, kind of disappointing. So I will definitely be switching out this ink as soon as this particular converter runs out. I might actually even just dump it sooner because, like I said, since I use this primarily for notes, I really need it to not hard start. So I'll be swapping out. If you have a deep dark purple that you love that's very, very wet, please comment with those below and make some recommendations. I'm always looking for new inks anyway, and I would like to do a dark, dark purple with this. It's just very clearly this one is not working for me. I might try it in a broader nib because I do, as I mentioned, love this particular shade of purple. But yeah, that's what it looks like, and it looks really good. It does, in the extra fine, definitely look like it's pretty much black. But, you know, I just like knowing that I'm using a purple ink. Okay, next. Lamy 2000. I have funny stories about this pen, which I will talk about in a video at some point, but I do absolutely adore it. It's the stainless steel, clearly, and it is heavy AF, but it feels really good in the hand. I really love this with wet inks. It's an extra fine, but it writes like butter. I tend to like a little bit more scratchiness. Let's scoot that up so people can actually see. This is a Ferris wheel press. Again, Spadina Rose, one of my all-time favorite Dusty Rose colors. Dusty Rose is one of my favorite sort of families of shade, and I love Spadina Rose. It's just got enough pink to make it a pink, but with a little bit of heft to it, I guess. And I love writing with it in this particular pen. Again, there's just this great, maybe if I could spell. Okay, where was I? So there's just this great heft to it that is really comfortable. I write long letters with it, so it's not like it's heavy in the way that'll make your hand tired. It just feels nice. And I don't know, balanced, that's not even the right word that I'm looking for. It just feels important when you're writing with it. For a moment so you can see, I just love this color. Like, seriously, even with an extra fine, and yes, it's a Western extra fine, so it's definitely broader than a Japanese extra fine, you get so much shade in this, and I really love that about this ink and the pen combination. I have a pen that I just ordered that I'm hoping will give me a similar experience, but we shall see, that I think the Spadina Rose will look amazing in. Okay, next one. So this is the TWSBI Diamond AL Mini. I love the Diamond Mini pens. They're just really fun to write with. They hold ink so well, and they just, I don't know, I really enjoy this particular mini pen because I do in general enjoy mini pens. And this one has Blushing Mushroom in it. I don't only like Ferris Wheel Press's shimmer inks, but I do seem to have a ton of them. This is an extra fine, and I love this color of ink. There's a ton of shimmer in there, but there's also some great shading. I hope it's picking up between like the purples and the pinks and the grays and the blues, and it's just an awesome ink. I really, really love it. This one, and I think maybe Adventurine, are two of my favorites from that particular release, and I do use those a lot. And I'm trying to edge away from using the same ones like I mentioned, but I don't know that I'll be able to because I love it so much. Okay, and then my new Wicked Beautiful Edison Pen Company limited edition Glenmont in the Diamond Cast Silver Lake. I've said this before, it is definitely the prettiest pen that I own, and I love it. I'm still getting used to this italic nib. Definitely still getting used to it, but I think I'm getting there. It's taken a while, but I'm getting there. It does lay down the prettiest line of ink if my handwriting just didn't look tragic in it. But, it is what it is so far. So this is with Sailor Manyo Haha. And I had not been sure what to think of this ink prior to this pen. I think the biggest nib that I'd used with it was a medium, and I was like, yeah, it's okay. It's supposed to be this chromo shading wonder, and everybody loves it, but it's really just so pale and blah, blah, blah. Fast forward to me finally picking up stub nibs and broad nibs, and yeah, no, Haha is absolutely lovely, and it has amazing characteristics, but you really do need a broad, I think, minimum nib to make it show off the way it's supposed to. Um, Without that broad nib, you just don't get to see all of the characteristics, and it really is just very pale when you use a narrow nib. It's still a little bit wet, so you're not going to be able to see all of that gorgeous shading, but it is a crazy cool ink. I absolutely adore it, and I'm very strongly considering picking up a bottle, but I'm going to hold off just a little bit longer just because I want to get a little bit more comfortable with my italic nib first. But it kind of is like the perfect match for this pen, though. But yeah, okay. Just a couple more. So next one, this is my Benu Euphoria in the exclusive caramel latte color from Goulet Pens. This is one of my go-to writers. I have done many nib sizes in this. I initially purchased it with a broad nib, and beautiful line of ink, way too wet a pen for me. Like, that broad was the kind of the gushiest of gusher pens you could ever imagine, and my letters were a hot mess. It really was not for me. So I downgraded all the way down to a fine, and I was like, this is really beautiful, and it works great as an everyday writer, but it wasn't showing off quite as many characteristics as I wanted. So then I picked up a medium nib, and since it's like a Schmidt nib, it's nice because I can just pick up the replacement Schmidt nib and then swap them out as I go. And I really appreciate the fact that I can do that. And this medium, I'm so the Goldilocks of nibs with this pen, I guess, but this medium is perfect. This is the way that I had initially hoped that it would write, and it works perfectly for me. Now, this is one of my new favorite inks. It's Taccia's Golden Wheat. And this ink, if you are looking for a gold leaning brown, this is it. I mean, it is absolutely gorgeous. And again, when it's still totally wet, because as mentioned, this pen lays down a crazy amount of ink, you don't see just how gorgeous it is, but it'll dry down and there'll be a ludicrous amount of shading. And you'll see all of those golden highlights with the deeper, richer browns. And it looks amazing in this particular pen. And I think it's kind of the perfect match for it. There's a Taccia tea that I want to try that I think leans even a little darker, but I still have to pick that one up and give it a shot. But yes, Taccia Golden Wheat, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous brown color. Okay, and my last one for today is the Vinta ink in, hold on, which color is this one? Vinta ink Nahan. And this is my TWSBI Vac Mini, and I have a fine nib in this. And I really do love the ink in this particular pen as well. Let's see if I can get this to line up the way I want it to. Nope. But, you know, at your base, you've got some teal, some gray, and then there's a heavy, heavy, heavy amount of silver shimmer in it. Almost, it sort of runs that line between too much shimmer and the perfect amount, because there's definitely moments when I think I can't actually see the ink through all of the sparkle. But you'll see in just a second. You can definitely get some of the aqua teal blues going on, but it really is a whole lot of that sparkle. A whole lot of the sparkle. And the harder it dries down, the more that shimmer comes to play. So if you are not a shimmer fan, definitely would not recommend the Nahan, but since I do like shimmer, it works out really, really well. And I actually like sometimes where it's just a hint of color popping through. But yeah, so these are the inks that I'm really working with at the halfway point in February. I might add a couple just from different letters to different pen friends. I am hoping actually that the Spadina Rose is almost out in this particular fill of my Lamy 2000, just because, like I mentioned, I have another pen that I kind of want to put it in, and I have an ink that I've been really dying to try, and I want to pop that into my Lamy and see if it works as well. And yeah, so this is my midpoint February currently inked, and hopefully some of these inks will appeal to you if you haven't tried them before, or maybe you've had some questions. If you do have any questions about any of these, please comment with those below. If this was entertaining or helpful to you at all, please, please, please consider clicking the like button or even the subscribe button. As always, thank you so much for joining me, and hopefully I will see you next time. Bye-bye.